Okay, so Tishta, should we go?
Yes, Professor Patra, I think I was just about to ask you. Maybe start
Okay,
or
okay, so we may start, and I hope that more and more participants will join over time, or will anyway we'll have the recording. So, welcome everyone. So, our students, fellows, colleagues from OP Jindal Global University as well as other institutes. So, again, welcome back to this new series of research discussions group. This is a particular series which is fully organized by our fellows as well as students, and it is made for the students by the students, and we professors are rather more like kind of attendees in these sessions. And the main objective of this session is basically to, in a way, discuss and brainstorm among us certain very interesting questions which can be raised mainly in three directions that our center is dedicated to. One is certainly complexity science and its application in policy research, which is already a hot topic, and a lot of discussions happening in that particular area, whether from health systems point of view, climate change point of view. Recently, I think there was a lot of events abroad as well as in our country, which was based on climate change and how complexity science can be involved in that. Our center is very much dedicated in that direction. We are already working with excellent research networks across countries, also research grants. That is one particular direction. The other directions being quantum-like modeling, exciting paradigm and interface between natural science and social science, and also applied spirituality, which has been like our like kind of cohesive factor, one can say, or the central belief that we have, to how to use various kinds of applied spirituality wisdom that we gain from both the Eastern and the Western traditions in social science, mainly policy research. So today's particular speaker, Somalatha, welcome very much from JSIA, International Affairs School of our university. And she has chosen a very exciting topic that I was just mentioning, that kind of like penetrating questions on how complexity science can be used in policy research overall. So there will be a presentation by Sumalatha for about 20-25 minutes, and then we go for question answers, and then finally perhaps Cheshta or Parinita, our fellows, can make some summary out of that. So I really hope that this series will continue with more and more zeal, more participants will come in. So please do kind of spread the word about this series to other students, fellows, collaborators. And I think that this is also an excellent platform we can make for expanding our reach, for expanding our group. Okay, so without further ado, so I will request our speaker to take the stage, please.
Thank you, Professor Sandeep Patra. I will make a presentation now. Um, just a slide visible.
Yeah, it is coming up.
Ah,
It's coming up.
yeah.
Yes, yeah, thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. Warm welcome to you all. Warm welcome to you all, and thank you for participating in R&D 2.0 version of CESP. I know like you all are in the busy schedule of end-term submission, but thank you for your time. So I'm Sumalatha K C, and I will be presenting you the reading application of complexity science for public policy. It was a reading by OECD, and I'll be moderating the discussion on the topic also. So I'm associated with the CEASP organizing committee, and our center, Complexity Economics, Applied Spirituality and Public Policy, strives to have vibrant teaching programs as well as strong research collaborations at national and international level on the forefront areas of complexity economics, applied spirituality, and public policy. The members of CEASP are cross-disciplinary, and we endeavor to apply the teaching, research, and related process in advocating public policy and to make complexity system to foster ecologic integrity, social justice, and economic effectiveness. R&D Circle of CEASP is an attempt to simplify the complexity in understanding the complex system thinking. It is a platform for collaborating learning where associated faculty, students, and all interested stakeholders, both from JGU and outside JGU, can exchange ideas and develop a better understanding of the CEASP's relevant areas. The Nobel Prize in Physics for 2021 has been awarded to 3 researchers from complex system thinking domain, a motivating factor for you all to attend our virtual R&D session. Virtual is a new world. Virtual is a new normal in this COVID world. Let me start this session by asking you a simple question. What is one important factor do you think is highlighted by the COVID pandemic? Anyone is free to answer. I'll repeat the question. What is the one important factor do you think is highlighted by the COVID pandemic? Anyone? Okay. It's the interconnectedness.
Uh,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
Shubham.
yeah. I just wanted to say that how disease, it actually showed the world like how we are connected. Apart from internet and globalization, we are also connected through microorganisms surrounding us. So something which happened or may have happened in China actually percolated to throughout the world.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. That is where we are leading to. So it is the interconnectedness. That's yes, yes, Aryan.
Isn't that also proof of that we are in a very sustainable ecological system? Because it's uh, like I was reading the PDF that was sent, and it made a lot of sense because it's like we are a part of the ecological system, and it's like it was written over there that most of the people are gonna survive it due to resilience that is going to develop within the system. So yeah, probably that as
Yes,
well.
sure. Yes. So what you people are reflecting is it's what complexity system thinking is about. It is the interconnectedness, the interdependency. The virus that emerged in Wuhan in China, though the China government does not accept this fact, it affected the world over, and still we are under these clutches. Understanding this fragile interconnectedness and network complexity that is at the core of any system is the crux of the complex system thinking. In complexity science parlance, it is called butterfly effect, which means the sensitive dependence in which a small change or a cause in one state of a non-linear system can result in larger effect or outcome in the later state. If at all you wonder why complexity thinking perspective, the best and persuasive answer is it's COVID again. You know, a good thing about the COVID. So the Newtonian system of science that emphasis on the linear system, that is one cause lead to one effect, is challenged by the pandemic as the world struggled to contain, recover, and to be resilient from the effect. The COVID necessitated a rethinking in our approach to analyze the situation and arrive a global solution to the global challenge that we face today, thereby bolstering the complexity thinking perspective. So this could be another strong reason for you all to attend our R&D sessions further. So now I will do the presentation on the reading for today's discussion, and this presentation will help you all to understand what is complex system and complexity science, characteristics of complex system, techniques and tools of complexity science for public policy, some successful application and potential forward, and prerequisites for policy relevant application and complexity science in actions around the countries. So first, what is a system? First, to understand the complex system, we need to understand what is a system. Our human body is a system. The state that consists of different social, economical, political structure is a system. We can say that the system is composed of very large number of diverse interacting parts, and because of this interconnection, there will be diverse cause and effect non-linear outcomes, making the system prone to surprising, large-scale, uncontrollable behaviors. This interaction from the complex system, that is where many parts and actors will interact with and adapt to each other, makes the system very dynamic. So the key word here to understand is interaction, non-linearity, and adoption. So what is complexity science, by the way? It is an exciting interdisciplinary field devoted to understanding, predicting, and influencing the behavior of complex system. And the field looks promising as it has application in different domains like epidemiological and contagion studies, complex dynamics of technologically connected environment, in resilience and vulnerability, in understanding societal implication of climate change, etc. Now I will share with you a short video, maybe of 6 minutes, to familiarize you all with the concept of complexity theory. I mean, then, is the video visible?
Not now, but you
Yeah,
can.
is it in a pass mode, Professor? Once again, open. Now?
No, it is not visible. Yeah.
Once again, let me set the screen then. I'm sorry, I just dropped. Now I think it will be visible. Now is it fine? Uh, it's- Professor, is the video visible now?
No, no, we can't see this. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
1 second. I mean, even though I shared the screen, is it not visible?
The screen is dark. Cheshta, can you help in this?
I
yeah,
mean,
actually,
just as,
Sumalata,
yeah.
the screen is dark, but maybe you can stop sharing and then share again.
Okay.
Or maybe you can share the whole screen when you are sharing it again, and then it will be visible.
You mean I should start the presentation now?
Yes, maybe you can continue, and then maybe towards the end you can again have the video.
Yeah.
Now? Chester, can you hear it now?
No, we can't see that. No, no.
Okay, so Chester, can you share the PPT from your side? Maybe I don't
Maybe
know.
Cheshta can do it. My system is bit hanging, so maybe Cheshta can do it. So
Yeah, sure.
to Cheshta.
Yes, yes, Professor. So, Sumalata, should I go with the video first, or should I just share the screen for presentation and let's share the video later?
No, we will go with the video.
Okay, okay. Give me a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Just give me a minute. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, Sumalata, is it visible?
Yes, Chester, it's visible.
Okay. Let me know if you can also hear this.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Chester. I think that's it. Chester, like, can you all, I mean, if you are having my PPT, like you can present, not an issue. So it will save some time.
Okay. Yeah, give me a
Yeah.
minute.
Thank you. So guys, like from the video, so this is what complexity system thinking is. So the crux of the complex system thinking is the interconnectedness, and the base concept that forms this interconnectedness or non-linearity, adaptability, self-organization, uncertainty, and networks. So we will delve further into other characteristics of the complex system thinking, and we will also understand like why this complex system thinking is imperative in the present situation to be incorporated in the public policy framework. So let me get my PPT 1 second. Chester?
Yeah, I'm just sharing. It's
Yeah.
it's opening now.
Thank you. Sorry guys for taking your time. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can go to slide number 4. Yes, thank you. So the other characteristics of complex system or emergence. I mean, adaptability has been described in the video, so I'll switch to emergence. It refers to the novel patterns that arise at the system. For example, weather. Weather is an emergent property because of interactions of air, moisture, and land. Global political dynamic is an example of emergence concept because it is a result of innumerable social, economic, and political interactions. In policy making perspective, it is important to understand the emergent of unexpected surprises. Take, for example, cigarette tax. It is aimed at curtailing smoking, but this tax may lead to unanticipated consequences such as cigarette smuggling, which may even link to financing terrorism. So this understanding the concept of emergence is very, very important in our policy making. So it will help us uh, to uh, to analyze or to predict like what may happen, to see a policy from a holistic perspective. And second, and next is self-organization. It has been described in the videos. I'll go for attractors. What are attractors? An attractor is a set of state of being towards which a system will naturally gravitate and remain cycling through unless perturbed. See, I will explain it with an example of a bowl and a ball, which is there in the picture. For if we drop a ball into a U-shaped bowl, it will move around until it comes to rest at the lowest point. We can say that the ball is attracted to this point. So each part of the bowl can be regarded as lending to that stationary point, and the whole bowl is what we call the system basin of attraction. So system is like this bowl, and they're typically held within the attractor because of the different forces placed upon them by their environment. Within the social system, attractors represent the cores of least resistance for a person or a social group. Attractor represent equilibrium of a society. For example, attractor in a social system or social institutions like church, school, society norms and culture, because they help to keep social actors within the well-defined set of behavior, and they help to maintain equilibrium or stable state in the society. So identifying and understanding the attractors is crucial for establishing self-organization and effective policy making and implementation. Because once we can able to, our policy is in tune with the attractors, norms and everything, it can be go to the grassroots level, and it can be like having a very sustainable implementation can happen if we can able to make use of the attractors in our policy making. Next slide, please. So self-organized fiscality is also similar to attractors, and chaos is based on the butterfly effect. I mean, what it says is that, nothing in the system is very organized. Sometimes like disturbances will give a positive effect. For example, in a human system, a healthy person will have a disturbed, I mean, sometimes there will be disturbed heart rate, there will be heartbeats. If the heartbeat is very rapid, and I mean it is very stable, then we can say that the person is not healthy. There should be some ups and flows in the heartbeat, and that is what called as chaos. So chaos is very important to in the policy perspective, because we should be able to understand, like, some negative effects. For example, COVID crisis is a chaos, but we can make it as an opportunity. So understanding this is very, very important in the policy perspective. Not the system will not remain in a stable or in an expected way every time. So we have to expect the chaos and make use of this chaotic situation for a policy perspective. Next is phase transition. System behaviors change suddenly and dramatically because of tipping point, and this is called phase transition point. Example, at the time of financial crisis, the point at which public lost trust in the banking system is called a tipping point or a phase transition point, causing withdrawal cascade and collapsing the system. Next is the power law. Complex system is characterized by probability distributions, and with power law, it is possible to predict future states of event. Uh, Even highly complex system event can be predicted, though in a probabilistic manner. So the likelihood of occurrence of many categories of natural threats such as flood, earthquakes, follow power law, and it also have predictability in assessing the relative population size of the cities, which is very much needed perspective in the Indian context, because Indian urban cities are overflowing with population. So application of power laws and understanding the analyze the pattern of the population is very important from the public policy perspective. Next slide, please. Next, we move into tools and techniques of the complexity science, which has an applicability from the perspective of policy making. First is agent-based or multi-agent model. So, one second. So in this model, we can use a simulation method. It is a kind of agent-based simulation in which a virtual world can be created, in which artificial agents, for example, individuals, families, or organizations with a particular trait can be created. And the agent will interact adaptively with each other and also change with the overall conditions in the environment. So doing this agent-based simulation will help us to give insight into the question, like what are the stable characteristics of the system, what are the unstable characteristics, and how each stable and unstable characters influence each other, and what is a desirable effect forward. So all these things can be simulated, and it will help the policy perspective more realistic rather than being like short-sighted or fragmented. Next is network analysis. What is network analysis? It is a common feature of many complex systems, because complex system is based on the network, and this network analysis is like it defines structural features and follows specific dynamic laws. Network analysis are based on map of relationships or linkage constituted in the systems. So when we can identify the network analysis, we can identify the actors who can be influential in creating a change in the society. So network analysis can also be help in identifying the nodes and actors, and even in tackling the terrorism, because through network analysis, if we can identify like the nodes are the connecting points, we can able to understand like the pattern of the terrorism attack, and what is the strength of a terrorist organization, how we can dissolve it. All these things can be done using network analysis. And next is data mining. So at the present world, with all smart tools and all interconnected world and virtual world, the one thing that is very much available is data, the big data. We are in a big data world. So how to make use of the data that is called data mining. So through complex adaptive system, we can develop techniques to find patterns and relationship in large data sets with complex qualities. We can use cutting edges of mathematics, computational techniques, and simulations to arrive at a decision and to understand the non-linearity of the phenomena. And next is scenario modeling. Scenario models are artificially constructed. They are hypothetical models of complex system. It is again also simulation. They help to identify the policies that are robust to many likely futures. We can construct a scenario and we can connect the data, and we can actually we can make a probabilistic outcome, and we can decide like whether this policy will be suitable for this scenario, a kind of stuff. Next is sensitivity analysis. Scientists have a great interest in how the behavior of complex systems depend on many parameters which appear in model of the system. They can make use of numerical techniques largely developed by engineering community called sensitivity analysis. These methods allow the calculation of the degree to which outcomes would vary in response to change in the system parameters. Next is dynamical system modeling. This is like generally a set of differential equation or iterative equations used to describe the behavior of interacting parts in the complex system. And it includes like positive and negative feedback loops. This feedback loops helps us in understanding the interconnectedness of the system. And positive feedbacks and negative feedbacks are very much essential to make a holistic sustainable development plan. So this dynamic system modeling which gives an effect on which gives us understanding to the feedback loops, helps us in devising a sustainable plan that can help us in achieving multiple plans, not only single targeted goal, but multiple targeted goal. Next slide, please. So, its complexity thinking, its applicability so far has happened in epidemiological and contagion area, and also in controlling the traffic and resilience, and how to design a resilience and vulnerability pattern, in ascertaining the climate change pattern, in predicting the financial markets, and even in US is using this network analysis method to identify association of terrorists, including pinpointing the location of key dangerous individuals, and even to make online prediction markets. And European Union is using like complexity science method to mine the content of large number of websites for patterns in news stories that may helps them in predicting the outbreak of violence in regions that are prone to social or political instability. Next slide, please. So when we want to inculcate complexity science thinking, we need to have a new way of thinking. So first is predictability. I mean, complex system science focus on identifying and analyzing the trends and probabilities rather than seeking to predict specified events. So, traditionally, an inability to make a definitive prediction has been considered a scientific inadequacy. So it can be solved using complexity science method. Second is control. As with prediction, control is generally made possible by identifying cause and effect chains and then manipulating the cause. But cause and effect in complex system are distributed, intermingled, and interconnected, and not directly controllable. So policymakers need to become more comfortable with strategies that aim to influence rather than attract or identify and avoid dangerous tipping point. So here, what it is trying to say is that it's like more of an analysis we have to do, and we have to analyze the interconnectedness, and we have to make the policy which is probabilistic. And third is explanation. An advantage of traditional science that focus on cause-effect relationship is that it's identifying, provide a sense of surety and quantitative understanding of how things work. That is a satisfying explanation of phenomena in the natural world. When analysis are done using complexity science methods, insight about the underlying mechanism that lead to complex behavior are revealed. Next slide, please. But to inculcate complexity system thinking in the policy making perspective, there are certain prerequisites that need to be done. First is like data needs. There is a large number of data that we'll be dealing with. So, all the necessary prerequisites to make the data safe and how to make use of the data, the technological requirement to simulate the data to make use of the data is necessary. And second is the validation of the models. So validation of social and behavioral models is critical if they are to be useful to policymakers. The model that can answer a policymaker specific question will be of the most use and will allow policymakers to make better decision. So computer-based models, simulations, and will help us to understand the models. And the thing is, we need to harness the ICT technology. Third is decision support tools. Predictive models may not actually be useful to policymakers as the existence of decision support tools. Accordingly, researchers must take special care to formulate the results of their work in terms that policymakers can understand and utilize it. Simulations that show what will happen in various scenarios and options are especially useful. And the fourth point is interoperability of models. The present policy systems are not integrated. They are very much fragmented. For the complexity system to be very relevant, they should be having an interoperability of models. There should be an interconnectedness. This is very much essential before implementing complexity system in the public policy making. And next is adaptation of the institution and mechanism of science. Complexity science has its roots in pure mathematics, but today it is conspicuously interdisciplinary field with an ever-widening spectrum of application in the physical and life sciences, in engineering, and in the social and behavioral domains. So the academic institutions, research organizations, and the other MNCs which are research oriented, they have to adapt the complexity system, and there has to be interoperability between the research organization, between the government, between the civil societies, and even in the Indian context with the local self-governments. And next slide, please. So with regard to the complexity adaptive system, there is an applicability all over the world. For example, in the United States, the National Science Foundation has had many initiatives in recent years to fund complex system science. And in Japan, Japan has devised a basic plan for science and technology that emphasize interdisciplinary research and encourage networking opportunities for scientists from different fields. And with regard to European Union, it has developed a program called Future and Emerging Technologies, that is called FET, and newly and emerging science and technology called NEST actions. And another program that has been developed by EU is COST, stands for Cooperation in the Field of Scientific and Technical Research. It is a framework that provides networking opportunity for complexity science across Europe. And Switzerland is having a complexity tool called System Design. This is in joint venture with the Oxford University at present. And in India, National Institute of Advanced Science, the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, is studying the potential of the application of complexity science in biomedical field, industrial field, technology, and development field. Next slide. So now, like, I have given an insight into complexity science thinking. Now I put the floor open for discussion. I mean, I framed these 3 questions for discussion, and even further questions are encouraged. So my question to you all is, what is the potential of using complexity frameworks, approaches, and theories in policy making in India? And second, how to enable fruitful transfer of scientific lessons and policy needs between complexity scientists and policy makers? Third, can complexity science make policy making integrative, bottom-up, and effective in Indian system context? The floor is open for discussion. Thank you, Chester.
Okay, thank you very much. It is really very nice to see the presentation and the video also that you played in the beginning. So I will say that there are quite a few ideas, and you have also given a kind of blueprint of what are the things happening right now in European Union and various other important organizations all over the world. And then finally, these 3 important questions that you have come up with, I think that these 3 questions can well become like integrated in a PhD thesis or that kind of a research. that some of our students and fellows would like to pursue over time. I know some students have also joined outside our university, like Swati and Rakesh. I know them personally, who are also quite interested. They're from physics background and also mathematics background. So I hope that these things would be quite interested to them also. Personally, I will request you to circulate the PPT to all of us so that we can, go through these points and deliberate more on them. As of now, let us have some questions and comments from our students and fellows. So floor is open, please.
Yeah, Abhijit.
Yeah, am I audible? Okay,
Yes.
so thanks for Sumalatha for that interesting topic presentation. So I just had a question. I don't know whether it makes right in the context, but maybe you can clarify on that. So I was just wondering whether, how can we place circular economy in the context of this complexity theories, telling about, the connection between all the different fields and how the how the things are all connected between each other, and this so which I could place like a loop which is existing in the nature between the things, so that so in that context I was like thinking how can we play circular economics in this context, and maybe also on the context of public policy and making decisions also.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I'll try to answer it to my knowledge. Uh, so, this complexity system thinking is a dynamic field. It is still exploratory. So, it has variety of scope. So, circular economy in the sense, and one of the feature of the complexity system thinking is the circular connectedness. Interconnectedness, which is also circular, because what it says like this feedback loops helps us to understand the interconnectedness and how one system is essential for the other system. So it is more or less similar to the circular economy, which says like a product that has been created like goes to its usage and again comes back to the original thing. I mean, it is like no wastage is involved in the circular economy. That is the crux of the circular economy. It do have scope. I mean, we can link this complexity system thinking perspective and complex economy and circular economy all are interconnected. We can link it. It is a very perspective, very scopeful perspective. But I can give only these details because even my knowledge is only limited. So if like Professor or Chesta can add to it, it will be very very good.
Yes, I think that circular economy concept has really taken on, and I was just looking into one interesting video that other day. There is a documentary channel. There's a very kind of hot documentary that's happening one, Curiosity Stream, which is a kind of channel which kind of hosts various interesting documentaries. And one documentary is there on circular economy. Now you see that the circular economy concept actually has been adapted from complex biological systems. Because you see that all of our ideas are very much taken from either complex biological systems or, as Shwamalata mentioned, about mathematics and certainly physics. So there is a very important name here, James Lovelock. I don't know whether you have heard the name or not. He is like one of the pioneering scientists in coming up with this idea about like Earth can be considered as to be one single organism. So there is like no, it cannot be thought as to be just simply kind of like conglomeration of millions of organisms. It's a one single organism, and it has its own holistic way of living. So that has been the philosophy of the circular, thinking, circular system thinking. But yes, it can be integrated into complexity thinking also, though it may happen that the methodologies which have been adapted in complex adaptive systems They are slightly different because as you see that in this particular presentation also Sumalatha gave a lot of kind of ways in which complex adaptive systems have been in a way thought in a methodological perspective. So the challenge would be that how to integrate those methodologies with the circular economy concept. But philosophically, certainly they can be integrated and of good use. And here also, few days back, I should say that we came across a particular organization. I think Cheshta can correct me. It is somewhere in the Ireland or somewhere like that, which actually is I think in Sweden, which actually looks into circular economy result, the circular economy concept, and we found that some of the methods which they are using may not be everything. They can be very well tied up with complexity, economics or complexity, complex adaptive system approach. So Cheshta, if you would like to add something more in this.
Professor Chester couldn't able to speak because he's presenting.
Okay.
Sumalatha, I'm here. I can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so Professor Patra, yeah, I agree with you on this. And even the Laszlo Institute is looking forward for studying systems thinking plus circular economy both. So they have a program that they are running, and they're trying to include and integrate complexity economics with systems thinking. So that is another important area that economics is going forward with. I'm also coming from economics, but now because I've become familiar with complexity science, the tools and the methods that we are using, so it's also broadening up our horizons. How from just going from one discipline, we can really integrate other disciplines together and then look at the world how it is rather than being in the silos approach. So I agree with your discussion. Yeah.
So I will request the students and all the participants to kind of go to some of the websites that Cheshta also mentioned, like Laszlo Institute. I think we can circulate their link also, because we are having some kind of good conversation with Laszlo Institute and other institutes like Santa Fe. Certainly, Santa Fe is one of the top kind of premier institute in complex adaptive systems, and we can see that how we can build more and more networks with them. So that would be like one short response as of now. But these are like food for thought. So we keep on cultivating those.
I hope Abhijit, it helped for your understanding.
Yeah, it was indeed very clear. Thank you, Professor and Sumalatha and Chester.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see like.
Sumalatha, this is
Yeah, Shubham, please, please go ahead.
A lot many thanks to you and to Professor and to Chester as well. For students like us, we have been trained for over years, to have a compartmentalized education throughout our years, and it's like when you are young and you really, you are curious enough, and you do worry as if what in what scenarios, if what are those regions where subjects kind of meet each other, and where ideas meet each other, and we are not trained particularly to look beyond the scopes of the boundaries that we are trained in. So I'm very thankful for disciplines like these, like complexity science, or maybe say data science. And we are living in an age where subjects and individuals are actually exploring beyond the traditional facets of subject realms. And I believe that when I looked at all of these three questions that have been posed at the end of the presentation, like potential of using complexity frameworks, and scientific lessons and policy needs, and how, with respect to Indian scenario, I really believe that at the end of it, then again, we are back to square one. If we really need to have complexity science, or subjects or disciplines like complexity science actually evolve over a period of time, I think we would really need to wait to, kind of see institutions, individuals, populations evolve over a period of time. There are certain things which time heals or time builds with its own space, with its own pace. And definitely because of internet and technology that and the era of globalization that we live in, definitely these things are going to aid us into thinking. But I am baffled by the concept of complexity science only to the fact that finally, human minds have been able to comprehend the and acknowledge the vastness and the unity of universe in itself. And when I look at streams such as complexity science, I'm really excited to the point and to the fact that uh, looking from maybe our journey is complete. If I don't know if we are in a very nascent phase of complexity science, but I can definitely comment on that we started with unit life, and now we have started looking across paradigms of evolutionary science, maybe say metaphysical science, and integrating science and tech and mathematics in all of these streams. And I really believe that some of the past historians or some of the past laureates of arts would be really happy where science has actually given them their due, and in recognizing that even human behaviors are tantamount to be studied and to be integrated in the scientific models, and they can actually benefit humans at large and society at large. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Shivam. You used the word interconnectedness, that's very nice. So yeah, your aspiration, thanks for your review. And I think like you have an interest for complexity science, you are most welcome to join our research center. So you're anytime
Definitely,
welcome.
if professor would make some space for us, and if JSI, kind of enables us.
We'll be very delighted to have you on board. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your view.
Yes, and I should also mention that Subham also mentioned a lot from the art side of it also, and that is like fantastic because that is what we need more and more. It's a kind of like a harmony between all the domains of knowledge. That is like the philosophy of the complexity science. So that's great. So, any more questions? Yes, please go ahead.
I think Agar, let's see. Aryan is having a question. Yes, Aryan.
Yeah, thank you. So my basic question would be like with the study of complexity sciences and systems at large, and making policies based on these, wouldn't that be like playing God? Because it's in a way we're like we're we're analyzing each and every aspect of the system, and then we're making assumptions that these policies in a way could lead to results like these. But on the other hand, it could also be catastrophic, like if we are making a certain decision, it could also be apprehended as a decision that could lead to various disastrous effects. So in a way, isn't that like playing God?
Yeah, it's a kind, see, one thing with complexity system thinking is that, and which is missed in the present perspective of whatever policy making, is that we are not seeing the interconnectedness. We are taking policy in a fragmented approach. So we are not going to the root of the problem. We are just addressing, maybe bits and pieces of the issues. So that's why, we couldn't able to find a solution for all the global challenges that we are facing. So this complexity system theory at least have, it is just based on the interconnectedness. It is stressing on the interconnectedness. So when we can able to see the interconnectedness somewhere or the other, we can able to find, we can go to the roots of the problems. Though it is very complicated, and with all this simulation tools that we have mentioned and identifying the actors and networks, nodes, will help us to at least fill in the loopholes that is existing in the present policy making perspective. See, it is always comes with a disclaimer that even complexity system thinking is only giving a probabilistic, outcome. It is not predicting, it is giving a probabilistic outcome. We can analyze whether this will be positive or this will be negative. Always errors will be there, but here the error will be minimal because of the computational tools, and the more deeper we get involved and the more interconnectedness we are analyzing, the error will be minimized. So I think like, there's always a scope. We can't make a perfect policy, but at least it helps in a way to address the loopholes that is present in the present policies. Maybe I think Professor can answer it better.
Yes, I think very interesting question, Aryan. Actually, you see that the role of probability, as Sumalatha just mentioned, is more and more at the heart of modern science. You see that Einstein used to complain that God does not play dice or he does not play dice. So that was like a kind of critiquing quantum mechanics, because quantum mechanics, at least the standard framework of quantum mechanics, would say that it is everything is probabilistic at the core, at the fundamental level. So yes, in complexity science also probabilities do play a very important role. So yes, it is kind of like thinking about like playing God, one can say, but from a more probabilistic manner. So we are not claiming that we can deterministically understand everything. That is simply not possible. That is the philosophy of complexity system, that ultimately perhaps you have to express yourself in a probabilistic manner. I remember one very interesting comment, not very related to this, but maybe more philosophical. You perhaps heard about Slavoj Žižek. Slavoj Žižek is like a very rock star philosopher of our times, communist philosopher, but kind of like very well known for his provocative thinking. So once Sarvapriyananda, kind of a spiritual guru, and he has also come to our center often, a great thinker of our times. So Sarvapriyananda asked Slavoj Žižek that, what do you think about the relation between God and human being, if there is a God at all? So then Zizek answered that actually you see that God misjudged human beings. So he created human beings, but then underestimated our intellect. So actually we can play God, but God couldn't understand that when he created human beings. So your question is very much pertinent, that ultimately there is this particular aspiration to know everything, as Stephen Hawking would have said, know the mind of God. But again, complexity science is rather a bit more pragmatic from that perspective, as Sumalatha just mentioned, that ultimately probabilistic thinking, but useful, very much useful, also changing the world view. That is the most important thing. Yes, Aryan, perhaps, yeah, Subham, or maybe we can take a couple of more questions. Yeah.
Professor, I just wanted to add a comment to this God statement that we are discussing on. I just wanted to say that borrowing from some of the excerpts from Yuval Noah Harari and Elon Musk, who also believe deeply into the concept of consciousness rather than a God concept. So, drawing on the similar lines, I would suggest that uh, consciousness is something that we experience, and it's the whole entity which opens the debate about whether the existence of God and the actions of human meet at some point of time. And if there wasn't any consciousness, we wouldn't be even able to debate the idea of God and to some extent the morality of human actions or ethicality of that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see that one of the arm of our center is applied spirituality, where we talk a lot about consciousness. And so I will invite you, definitely, you are all welcome to join some of the discussions in that direction, because consciousness, as you have rightly pointed out, is the central theme of everything, which modern science is still grappling to understand. But let's see how far we can go. So maybe we can take another question. Yeah.
Aryan, yeah, you can go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for the explanation on that. And I would just like to have another question for complexity sciences itself. So my question is, the basis of complexity sciences is based on data, correct? So if we're saying that we're gonna study data at a very large aspect on the aspect of the entire system of the human race, and we're gonna analyze that to make policies and things. So isn't that possible that this is already happening at a very large scale in the better developed nations like America, where the modern forms of consumption are already governed by uh, a way of data assimilation?
Professor, would you like to take the question?
Yes, I think that Sumalatha actually presented a lot of sources already, resources from European Union and United States, where there is this kind of evidence that now more and more policy making is looking into data and kind of like integrating that data in complexity science framework. So, and I think that in our country also some kind of initiatives have started as the presentation actually informed us about IISC and other places, and hope that our center also strives towards that. And we would rather like to start with some local level researches, but using the lens of complexity science. For example, need not to think too broad at this moment. For example, you can think about, say, local pollution control or local level policy making, but to analyze that, then you bring in the complexity lens. So that is also a viable way to look at. And already, yes, things have been started working out in that way. Say, for example, currently we had this COP26, climate change debate, which was going on at Glasgow for some time, where also scientists are bringing in very much this complexity system. By the way, I think that we got a very interesting link that day. We circulated to others also, perhaps we can circulate to you also, where there is an online program which is coming up in January, which is on these sustainability development goals and using different methods, complexity one of them. So perhaps if you get that link, I will request Cheshta to circulate that link. Perhaps some of you can try to enroll in that particular course. It is happening somewhere, I think, in Switzerland or something. So that would be my short response. Yeah.
Yeah. Aryan, you have any other questions?
Yeah, just the last one. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, Professor, thank you again for the response. But I just have like the previous question just related to this one. So, if in a way data is gonna allow people to make better policies, so can it be not that this data can be used for purposes that aren't intendedly good, but are just simply leading towards a more dystopian future? Isn't that possible that this data could be used for ways and purposes that we do not realize yet and could lead to a very elite dystopia?
Um, yes, Professor, I'll just give a brief answer and I'll hand it over to you. So Aryan, yeah, chances are there, data mismanagement, there's chances are there for this. So the thing is it's like how see any new invention has got its both positive and negative sides, but we should see the larger good, which is beneficial for the whole society. So complexity system falls in the perspective of giving a larger good. So in that case, like technology, we can use technology in a good way, but we have to find ways to fill in the loopholes. Just because it's an emerging concept, there is a lot of loopholes that are there, which we know, and we can't predict all the loopholes. Only when it emerges, we can make effort to fulfill it. To an extent, we can predict and we can make our system resilient, but it's not possible to have a foolproof system. So there is a scope for data mismanagement and data be used for utopian purposes. But yes, I'll just ask Professor to give more details on it.
Yes, I think that that's a very important question. You see, it's a very difficult question because you see that earlier, old style economics, for example, where if you go into the economics of regulation, for example, we know that monopolies are there and there are regulations. There's a huge amount of literature on how to regulate monopolies and so on. But this time, since we are thinking about complexity system as a whole, how to set up proper regulation for complexity system as a whole so that data mismanagement doesn't happen, which it is very, very different from, say, controlling monopolies. The controlling monopolies are still like kind of fragmented kind of a view. but say, for example, how to have a global architecture of regulation which might control the complexity system as a whole of the world economy as a whole. That is a huge amount of research, and as far as I understand, that there is no clear idea as of now that how we can do it. But say many economists have already pointed out that perhaps old style regulations might not work at all because they were not really built for like understanding complex systems. So maybe regulatory systems itself has to be integrated very much within the complexity system understanding. So they have to become complex also. Complex not in the sense of complicated, but at the world view of like understanding interactive processes and feedback loops and so on. For example, if you take financial markets, there is a huge amount of problem with the regulatory arbitrage. Regulatory arbitrage simply means that just by exploiting the differences of regulations between countries, you can kind of have some kind of free money by kind of shifting your operations to places with relaxed regulation. So these kind of things have to be tackled, and that have to be tackled from completely a new viewpoint of regulation. The complexity viewpoint of regulation itself, and that's a big way to think, and a great way to go. I am really glad that you are asking these questions. So that's great. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you, Aryan, for your questions. Yes, Shubham.
Yes, just wanted to add that as much as we would like to think, earlier also, like the sir pointed out, the economic theory and the market scenarios. Definitely, individuals or any system is culpable of being influenced by individuals' choices, or maybe say they can influence a system, but a system might not be completely overrun, or may not be completely controlled by an individual. That is the truth of the world that we live in. So definitely big players or big institutions or big organizations have kind of have showed us some examples where data was mismanaged to an extent that it has influenced the events of the world. For example, if you look in the assassination of Saddam Hussein, or maybe invasion of Iraq, there was so much of intelligence was circulated world over that uh, uh, there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but there was not much evidence to it. So similarly, if we look at the entire market of fossil fuels, or if we look at the entire market of arms and ammunitions, and if we look at the market of tobacco or liquor, we would really find that, or even for say diamonds, like why do men and women have to exchange diamonds as a show of respect, of love, and scenarios like that. So there are a number of gimmicks, I would say, that go on into creation of data. But yeah, eventually the initial data are very much important for the fact that yeah, we have certain desires, we have certain influences, we have certain inclinations, and all those people or all those institutions or all those mechanisms which collaborate these data sets into a model have necessarily an advantage over laymen like us to kind of decide as to what is good or bad. But definitely, there is always a check and balance in the society, in a system, just like the flock of birds example that we just saw, or the butterfly effect that we saw. We definitely own some control over the outcomes of the future.
Yes, Shubham, like your perspective is like very true. It is very scopeful. I mean, complexity system thinking is very scopeful, and the data we can be seriously can be used for the benefit of the of a larger number of sections, even that who have been excluded can be can be included, and it has a scope for inclusive development. I mean, your perspective is very true, and thank you for giving the perspective.
And I have just one question to Professor. I was kind of wondering if how complexity science is different from intelligence analysis. as if whether it subsumes intelligence analysis or complexity science is different in its sense that it goes beyond physical sciences and goes into microbial sciences.
Well, I will say that yes, it's a very interesting question. These are the questions for much deeper brainstorming and like it's kind of like thesis questions. So, but yes, very short response we can give that complexity science has been very much motivated by natural sciences. There is no doubt about it. Say, for example, as Cheshta just mentioned or Sumalatha just mentioned in the beginning that this year's Nobel Prize is for physics is all about complexity systems. But yes, then when you are trying to kind of extend complexity modeling to social sciences and economics, finance, etc., policy making, then it is true that we need to adapt to that. It is not the case that you can just copy paste from physics and apply that into economics and finance. That won't work. Say, for example, one another fascinating area which some of us today also are working with, like Swati, who is with us, Swati Singh, and say Rakesh, they are also working in the areas of say quantum-like modeling. So quantum-like modeling is another fascinating area where you are using the mathematical frameworks of quantum physics, but copy-paste job won't work. So as you have rightly pointed out, there are unique challenges which social systems will throw up. And I will say that these regimes, these paradigms are still fledgling, kind of budding paradigm in social science. So we have to adapt more and more to that. We will see that there are perhaps completely new features when complexity systems are extended to economics and finance, which is not founded in natural science because that is a different regime. So challenges will crop up every time, but then certainly we have to, there lies the uniqueness that though it is complexity system thinking, but there is a unique flavor since you are applying that to social systems. Say, for example, all these kind of feedback loops and interaction between the agents that it itself is much more complicated, say, than that the physicists get in, say, statistical physics or statistical mechanics. Because again, going back to human mind and because if you are a panpsychist, you may think that electrons are also conscious, but human beings are much more complicated. So if you bring in consciousness into the equation, the complex adaptive system will become much more complex as compared to, say, natural science kind of perspective. So, okay, so that's a great question, but that itself is a PhD thesis. So we have to explore much more on
Thank
it.
you. Thanks a lot.
Yes, Professor. I will also like to mention that Shubham is from JSIA and he always comes up with a lot of inquisitive questions, and he has the tag of asking good questions in our school.
No, that's fine. You see that this is the only thing that we need at our center to raise questions and to embark upon kind of very research, thoroughly focused journey. So that's it. So okay, so I will give it to Cheshta now for kind of concluding or summarizing, and then we are looking hopeful for our next session.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Patra, and thank you, Sumalatha, for presenting. I mean, it was very insightful for an introductory part. I think it was a very good start for all of us. And thank you, everyone, for joining. We have already exceeded times, but that's fine. That was very healthy discussion that was going on. So thank you very much. We'll also keep you all informed on the SDG course that's coming up that just Professor Patra mentioned. I'll forward the link. We'll also give the presentation that was there today that Sumalatha presented, and we'll keep you informed for the further sessions. So we look forward for your participation in all of the other sessions, and all the best. And thank you, Sumalatha, for this. Thank you, Professor
Thank you
for
very
joining.
much.
Thank you guys for
Sumita.
joining.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I thank Abhijit and Shubham from my school to join this and contribute very positively. Thank you, Abhijit, for your question. Thank you, Shubham, for your questions. And Aryan, thank you. You people made the discussion very interactive. So I also thank like all the other participants from non-JGU sector also, and some of my friends and family members were there. So I thank them also. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you in the next R&D session.
Thank you. Keep in touch. Definitely.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Sumalatha. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care all. Bye.